Hello and welcome to the news on HOMEF TV. This is 2024 news in retrospect. I am Kome Odomo. Firstly, we want to thank our viewers and subscribers for your support. It means a whole lot to us. At Health of Mother Earth Foundation, we recorded a significant milestone in our campaign for environmental justice, food sovereignty, and climate action. In this bulletin, we will be highlighting some of our success stories in our events as it's happened in the past years from our key campaigns. Now the news in detail. The Niger Delta Alternative Convergence (NDAC) was first established in 2022 by activists and community leaders after careful examination and socio-ecological realities of the region. The process examined the over 6 decades of natural resource extraction in the area and how it has shaped existential reality of the people. The third Niger Delta Alternative Convergence witnessed the resolve to commence a campaign for addressing critical socio-ecological concerns in the region. Our correspondent Esele Ojanelu completes the report.
The Niger Delta Alternatives Convergence (NDAC) was established as a pan-Niger Delta forum for conversation, strategic decision-making, and action. The Niger Delta, unarguably, is one of the most polluted places in the universe. On this premise, Health of Mother Earth Foundation (HOMEF), with other CSOs and people of the region, established the Niger Delta Alternatives Convergence in 2022 as a space for the peoples of the Niger Delta, including the different ethnic nationalities, leaders of thoughts, traditional institutions, academics, faith-based organizations, and community people, to converge and have conversations around environmental, ecological, socio-cultural, climate change, and livelihood issues in the region.
We also want to escalate these issues to be in the forefront of everybody so that they know that issues of divestment, if we allow the oil companies to sell off this onshore pollution, because the pipelines are rotten, the locations are burning. Roro 1 is burning for more than 4 years now. The flames have not been extinguished. The oil well at Okrika has been burning for 5 months now. Nothing is being done to stop it. If we allow them to leave this amount of disastrous impact and move away, then we are sentencing our people to death.
We're all aware that the oil industry is divesting. They have polluted the Niger Delta beyond words. Unarguably, the Niger Delta is seen as one of the most polluted parts of the universe. And so it is more of our burden as citizens, as people who are from that particular region, to raise our voices, design ways out of it, and ensure that that does not happen.
The keynote speaker, Professor Ibibia Loki Worika, in his address titled "Almost 7 Decades of Hydrocarbon Extraction: Imperatives for Socio-Ecological Justice in the Niger Delta," stated the lack of proper environmental accountability and integrity on the part of the oil and gas companies operating in the region.
We are all aware that there is a current, call it a paradigm shift from fossil fuel extraction to renewable energies, because fossil fuels are generally alleged to be responsible, or rather contribute to global warming and eventually to climate change. And that this possibly underscores why in Nigeria you have a situation where the major multinational oil companies are gradually also wanting to divest their assets and operations from the Niger Delta. A number of them in other jurisdictions are actually into renewable energies and all that because they want to continue to remain relevant.
The whole place is devastated. All the story buildings that were built in the 60s, 70s, they've all been destroyed. But when it comes to solid mineral, nobody bothered. They allow individuals to do their mining. But in our case in Niger Delta, it is stealing.
The convergence raised several resolutions which state that the demands contained in the NDAC manifesto must be taken to the grassroots as a rallying demand in the Niger Delta, while calling for Nigeria's energy transition to be centered on community consensus to be just and sustainable. Esele Ojanelu, HOMEF TV.
The International Conference on Petroleum Pollution and Just Transition in the Niger Delta focused on the report titled Advancing the Recommendations of the Bayelsa State Oil and Environment Commission. The research on the impact of oil spills and gas flaring in the Niger Delta region has recommended that at least $12 billion will be required over 12 years to repair, remediate, and restore the environment and public health damage caused in the region. Onome Etisero completes the report.
The report extensively x-rayed the challenges faced by the people of Bayelsa following the involvement of oil and gas extraction, noting that the environment itself has become a crucible of suffering. The unrelenting barrage of environmental degradation has transformed Bayelsa into an epicenter of health crisis, forging a reality where illness and suffering have become the norm rather than the exception. The Bayelsa State Oil and Environmental Commission, chaired by the Honorable John Toka Tamu, a member of the House of Lords, undertook the research to state the challenges faced by the people of Bayelsa State. In his welcome address, the Executive Director of Health of Mother Earth Foundation, Dr. Nimo Basi, said the conference comes at a pivotal moment for the socio-ecological history of Nigeria.
The report sets out a proposal to end decades-long cycles of contamination and neglect by the oil gas industry. Safe and cleaner oil company operations will not be enough to end Bayelsa's pollution nightmare. The fossil fuel-generated climate crisis is also destroyed Bayelsa ecosystems. So the 12 billion fund should lay the foundation of a renewable energy-powered future in the place.
What are we asking for? We have 10 recommendations. You can look at them in the report. I'll just flag a few. We're asking for a recovery plan for Bayelsa as priority. The urgency is something that we really underscored. And this is a recovery plan that must include cleanup and rehabilitation.
4 keywords stand out for me concerning all these and the way forward. One is remediation, another is recovery, another is restoration, and of course, reparation. These are key scaffolds for building our way out of the hole that extractivism and accompanying pollution have pushed us into. Now is the time to forge the pathways to the future we desire. There's a clear need to declare a state of environmental emergency in the oil-producing communities of Nigeria. It's time for a comprehensive environmental, social, and health audit of the entire region. The process must now be put in place to expand the work of the hydrocarbons pollution remediation project, HYPREP, to cover the entire Niger Delta.
The Bayelsa State Governor, Duye Diri, faulted the international oil company's activities, saying they flagrantly devastated the soil and water resources of the Niger Delta. Lauding the report's findings, he harped on implementing the report.
Let me be clear on this, that as a government, we are prepared to implement the recommendations of this commission 100%. Urgent intervention is needed, but we cannot do this alone. The magnitude of our challenges require the involvement of global and local stakeholders, international alliances, compassionate nations, and responsible organizations willing to stand alongside with us.
I use this opportunity to call for support for the governor and the government of our state to rise to the challenge of propagating the work of this commission. Whatever platforms that we have, we use it to draw attention and also speak to all our policymakers and leaders, governors, legislators, ministers from the Niger Delta need to come together to articulate what is a common threat and then raise these issues and engage policymakers and at some point the president, who needs to know the extent of devastation, degradation, what I termed environmental terrorism, which is still continuing, and what the commission has confirmed to be genocide.
The commission formally presented the report to the Bayelsa State government and its executive to adopt as a working document. The fight for the Niger Delta's environmental survival cannot be reduced to mere shadow boxing. It demands concrete action, unwavering commitment, and collective responsibility. Onome Etisiro for HOMEF TV.
Agricultural and environmental experts have debunked the narrative that genetic modified organisms, otherwise known as GMO, will increase food production and ensure food security. Health of Moderates Foundation, HOMEF, organized a one-day event tagged My Food is Nigerian to promote indigenous and organic food. Our correspondent Stanley Egolo has the report.
Representatives of the Ministry of Agriculture, farmers, food experts, professional chefs, community-based organizations, civil society organizations, youth, and student groups were present at the event. The event stressed that GMO companies have patent rights to their ownership, enslaving farmers to continuous dependence on them, which violates human rights and the right to food. The opening remark by HOMEF's director, Dr. Nemo Bassi, stressed the need to save lives and the future by promoting indigenous food through agroecology, which aligns with nature and agricultural practices.
The Nigerian Food Festival has been such an important event because we are losing a lot of our values, cultural values, by losing our food. We are losing crop varieties. Many of our young people don't even know our natural food, our native foods. They don't know indigenous foods. So we had to have this event to showcase our natural foods from different parts of Nigeria and to show that these foods are actually more nutritious than the food people buy, fast foods and other foods that have dubious value. The essence is for us to emphasize the fact that our food is central to our culture. The stories we tell, the songs we sing, the dramas we act, the cohesion of our families, peace in our communities, they can all be traced back to the food we eat and how we eat it.
We've had preparation foods from different parts of the country prepared, and honestly it's difficult to say which is best or which is preferred because naturally I like food, and honestly all the foods are delicious, all the foods are wonderfully made, and the cooking has been happening on the spot. We've seen the process from beginning to finish, and so we actually are encouraging the recipes are there. People can get to interact with the chefs, and they'll be able to learn the recipes and make these different foods.
I'm really very happy to get this prize. Coming out as the first position today, I'm very proud. I'm proud to be an Urobo. Urobo came out first. Thank God for everything.
GMOs, the genetically modified food that has been a topic for debate for almost a decade. And what we as a people are getting to understand is the fact that genetically modified organisms, in whatever form it is dangerous to not just our health, but also the environment and our ecosystem. I am Stanley Egolo.
Health of Moderates Foundation, HOMEF, celebrates its executive director, Dr. Nemo Bassi, who was honored with the 2024 Wellenberg Medal. Bassi's recipient of this award makes him the first Nigerian and fifth African to achieve this distinction, which is a testament of his significant contributions to environmental advocacy. Our correspondent Onome Etisiro completes the report.
The 2024 Wallenberg Medal, presented on 10 September 2024 at the Ross School of Business, Robertson Auditorium at the University of Michigan, is a tribute to exceptional humanitarians. It honors those who have shown extraordinary dedication to protecting the vulnerable and oppressed, much like Raoul Wallenberg, the Swedish diplomat who saved thousands of Jews during and after World War II, and after whom the award is named. In his acceptance speech and lecture, We Are Relatives, Dr. Nemo Bassi underscored love, humility, dignity, and respect as the cornerstone of his vision for a sustainable future for all beings.
One of our key struggles has been to gain an understanding of the mindset that permits inequalities in our societies. The mindset that elevates might over care and love. The mindset that promotes the individual rather than the community, the mindset that refuses to understand that we are relatives.
Bassi further noted that climate action and inaction provides pictures that help us to see the difficulties we face in building a consensus that the climate crisis is global, not national. Joyce Brown, Director of Programs at Health of Mother Earth Foundation, on behalf of the organization, applauds the Executive Director for his outstanding performance.
We are inspired by your relentless and exceptional contribution to the movement for environmental justice across the world, and we hope that your vision for a world where all beings live together in solidarity, in dignity, and in harmony with Mother Earth comes to actualization. Thank you for being a great leader. Congratulations.
On the occasion, the Swedish ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Urban Arlin, extolled Raoul Wallenberg's virtues and enjoined the audience to dedicate their lives to the cause of humanity, so they may be remembered just as Wallenberg was being recognized. Onome Etisero for HOMEF TV.
The Made in Nigerian Socio-Ecological Alternative Convergence, NSAC, brought civil society groups, academics, and socio-cultural group leaders to discuss the adoption policy of a national advocacy document, the Nigerian Socio-Ecological Alternative Charter, a call to action, emphasized ecological justice, people's participation, sustainability, accountability, and partnership as its core principle. Concerned with the burden of impacts on communities and the need for urgent action, Health of Mother Earth Foundation bettered the Nigerian Socio-Ecological Alternative Convergence, NSAC, as a space for national convergence around the existential issues galvanizing actions to address them. Odudu Abasi Asuko completes the report.
Nigeria is confronted with several critical ecological challenges that affect its population's well-being. These challenges are caused by several factors, including a long history of reckless mineral extraction, unregulated and unplanned urbanization and industrialization, poor policy development and implementation, and climate change. The Nigeria Social Ecological Alternatives Convergence has identified a web of interconnected struggles that span from the northeast to the northwest to the south. These issues, including drought, desertification, flooding, deforestation, and pollution, are not isolated problems. Recognizing their interconnected nature is crucial in devising comprehensive solutions. Nimo Bassi, in his welcome address titled "Time is Running Out: Imperatives of an Alternative Nigeria Socio-Ecological Agenda," exposed the environmental crimes and human rights abuses happening in extractive communities nationwide.
Are analyzing the ecological challenges of Nigeria, and we take note of the fact that every segment of this country has a peculiar environmental problem. And so it's something that has been democratized. We believe that by tackling the environmental crisis of Nigeria, we can actually unite the nation. Because then we revive the means of livelihood for all Nigerians, and they'll be able to live in clean, safe environment that is suitable for our development. So the alternative we're talking about, number one, is that we cannot keep on depending on extractive ideas of extractivism, believing that we have to dig the wealth out of the ground to be able to survive. The way we've continued with mining and oil extraction has damaged Nigeria to a very large extent. For example, the tin mines of Jos were never remediated and never restored. People are still being impacted today.
One of the impacts of climate change is that farmers now become confused as a result of no pattern. You can't really come out and say rains will start here and end here anymore. That's not about that's farmer confusion.
Odudu Abasi Asuko, HOMEF TV.
Given the shrinking civic space in many countries, the African People's Counter COP and Women Climate Assembly have become platforms to build community resilience and survival. This has affected Africans' capacity to respond to climate change impacts through solutions that shared a unified understanding and political actions towards real solutions to African climate, ecological, and social crises. Esele Ojanelu completes the report.
The African People's Council Corp recognizes that African voices have largely been excluded from the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Conference of Parties, which is captured by the Global North and corporations that continue to fuel climate crisis while falsely claiming to solve the causes of climate change. The Council Corp is therefore a movement to denounce the COP system while highlighting the impacts of climate change on African communities and showcasing viable alternative solutions. Women from over 20 countries across West and Central Africa assembled at the Women's Climate Assembly to share experiences and stories on the impacts of the global climate crisis, oppression, gender-based violence, and ecocide, which has resulted in the displacement, loss of livelihoods and damages, harassment, and even death of community members. In a field visit to Bagni and Moloji communities in Sali to see how sea encroachment has recently displaced families and destroyed sources of livelihoods.
As you can clearly see, we have resilient women from across Africa who are united against systematic oppression, against the injustice that is happening in the climate space. They are currently speaking out and crying out for justice for their lands, reparations for all their damaged lands, and the losses to be compensated for the environmental degradation that are currently ongoing in their environments. As you can see, the women and the men are protesting in the on the streets of Sali, Senegal, screaming out to their authorities to listen out to their cries of abuse, listen out to their cries of oppression, listen to their cries of their loss of livelihoods, and are saying that they want an end to fossil extraction and they want their climate debt to be paid. And most importantly, they want climate justice to happen right now.
We are demanding transparency and the implementation of climate-related projects in my country.
The communities are suffering from the climate impacts, and nothing is really done to sort of mitigate the situation. They're trying to do some adaptations, actions, but actually they are not really successful because the money or the finance is not gathered toward the community women. So we are really calling for real actions. We are calling our authorities to do their best to listen to the voices of the communities.
This is Esele Ojanelu reporting from Sali, Senegal, HOMEF TV.
Hello and welcome to Ikike Digest.
It's not the Constitution that gave us our fundamental rights. Our fundamental rights, human rights, inhere in us. The Constitution is merely a certificate. I will be a judge, all right? And then there's a case of a big spill before me. And I will not, even if the lawyers don't ask, the judge should be able to say, this thing you are alleging, let us go to the sites. With what I have seen in Bayelsa, going to the communities, the spill sites all over the place, every day that there is not a conflagration arising from oil pollution is a miracle in Bayelsa State.
So can we say it's because of this control that the PIA was initiated?
The PIA is really a disgrace. The Petroleum Industry Act is really a disgrace and a reflection of what sometimes I'm tempted to call National Stupidity Index.
A nationwide rally organized by Health of Mother Earth Foundation and the GMO-Free Nigeria Alliance across 10 states in Nigeria saw stakeholders including farmers, CSOs, scientists, legal practitioners, women and youth groups call on the Nigerian government to ban GMOs and support and promote agroecology as a viable alternative for food sovereignty and climate resilience in the country. The report. A nationwide rally organized by Health of Mother Earth Foundation, HOMEF, and the GMO-Free Nigerian Alliance across 10 states saw stakeholders including farmers, CSOs, scientists, legal practitioners, women, and youth groups call on the Nigerian government to ban GMOs and support and promote agroecology as a viable alternative for food sovereignty and climate resistance in the country. The coalition also demands a nullification of all permits so far granted, as they are not backed by adequate and certified sufficient risk assessments and investment in agroecology that ensures food security and food sovereignty while strengthening the Nigerian economy. The different states witnessed the handover of signed petition to the State House of Assembly, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, and the State Government House.
We are fortunate to be knowledgeable about these genetically modified organisms, otherwise known as GMO, and we have done a lot of research, personal research, and I've read a lot of researches by other people, and we can sincerely say GMO does not have a value for our bodies and our system, and we see a grave danger ahead this technology. So we think that we should bring it to the attention of as many Nigerians as can hear us and understand what direction is, so that they themselves can desist from getting themselves involved in the consumption of these genetically modified organisms.
We are here to say no to GMO. We are here to talk about the issues of GMO and how it impacts us as a people. And here we've come to register our concerns with the government to let the government know about the issues of GMO and make provision for laws that will prohibit the entrance of GMO into the state. Although we know that there are already existing supermarkets and superstores that have GMOs in their shelves, and so we are calling on the government to put a halt to the issues of GMO in the state.
So this one a very serious matter we come out from today, and not be just to do awareness, we also call on government, make them ban GMOs. Make them ban the GMOs because Nigeria feed itself. We don't need GMOs to feed this country. We call on the government to support agroecology. Agroecology is a system where they empower the smallholder farmers. When we say studies also say that they produce 80% of the food where we will consume, not be the big farm.
Are we going to allow poison come into our food system? We must not allow poison come into our food system because poison is not food for any of us. We must say no to GMOs, we must say no to poison food, we must say no to poison beans, we must say no to poison cassava, we must say no to anything that is poisonous. Our food must be natural.
Across 10 states and more in Nigeria, the call to ban the genetic modified organisms is on the rise. Health of Mother Earth Foundation and various civil society groups have reached out to many government officials to say that the call is simple. Practical organic use is what they push for. Endorse the use of agroecology and organic foods, while Nigerians are saying no to GMOs. From the ancient city of Benin, here in Edo State, I am Kome Odomo for HOMEF TV. The Center for Alternative Research and Studies CARES, an association of activists in Mauritius, held the 9th edition of its Indian Ocean School of Political Ecology. The idea is to educate people to actively deconstruct colonial experiences and replace them with new pluriversal imageries rooted in sharing and caring. Onome Etisiro completes the report.
The school focused on several topics, such as the ecological crisis and the failure of the climate COPs, militarism and post-colonial dynamics, extractivism, environmental and social justice, just transition, and the rights of nature. It was generally agreed that Africa must pursue a post-extractivist and post-capitalist future hinged on total liberation, sovereignty, and eco-feminist ideals.
The youth are the future. We used to say in South Africa, the battle for truth must be led by the youth, and this is what we need much more of. We need to deepen our understanding of the linkages between politics, economy, and ecology, and we have a responsibility as an older generation to hand over the baton, help our younger comrades rise to fulfill their role in resistance and building the alternative.
During the school, what we discuss is to have a common comprehension of where we are in terms of the ecological and climate crisis, to understand the underlyings, and the fundamentals of what is leading us to where we are today, because we are of the perspective that we cannot fight something that we don't understand.
Participants shared experiences from the school.
It's a phenomenal experience. I've learned so much. The way the speakers and activists and organizers have drawn connections between ecology, defending the climate, defending the earth and the environment, and capitalism and militarism, especially in the Indian Ocean, has been incredible. I never hear, the climate crisis discussed like this. It's so enlightening, and it's really inspirational to see people engaged in this work on the ground in their individual countries, pushing for the end of capitalism, to put an end to the system that's creating the climate crisis.
CARES was created in 2014 by members of the eco-socialist left-wing political party, Resistance et Alternative, to support social movements that work for social and ecological justice.
This speech is so important because the government was about to privatize it, to give it to private investors, to build a hotel, and then make the whole of this beach privatized completely and cut off from the village. So there were a lot of protests, the labor unions were involved, and the environmental activists were involved, everyone protested against it, and that law, that move was aborted. So now the beach is open to the public, and the next level of campaign is to make it a protected beach so that nobody ever makes any attempt to privatize this beach anymore in the future.
Onome Etisiro for HOMEF TV.
Climate crisis continues to threaten the fabrics of society, and young people globally are rising to take position at the forefront of the fight for sustainable future. The Young Environmentalist Network, TN, under the Health of Mothers Foundation, organized the Youth Environmental Assembly to bring together youths from across the Niger Delta to increase awareness in active advocacy while promoting sustainability and engaging in practice that protects the environment. Esele Ojanelu completes the report.
GMO in my food, but I will survive.
A two-day gathering of young people from different states in the Niger Delta witnessed a two-day Eco Camp event where activities that foster unity, teamwork, and creativity were engaged. The activities explored the intersections of food, art, and music as tools for impactful environmental advocacy. At the camp, the youths were made to understand their crucial roles in the fight for climate justice, as they are the first generation to feel the impact and the last generation to take action.
We know what TN is. TN is the Young Environmentalist Network. We are not trying to raise the new generation that is more environmental conscious, because we know that there's a reduction basically in terms of that. So that's why we now organize this Eco Camp and the Eco Festival, which are both under the Youth Environmental Assembly.
Creativity and protection of the environment gave rise to the innovation that was witnessed at the camp. From creating waste bins and games from locally sourced materials, to writing and recording songs about the environment, to cooking indigenous meals, the young people, through learning and interactions and research, had a greater understanding on the negative impacts of GMOs and the need for a just energy transition.
It's also relaxing. I also learned a lot about the environment, learning new words concerning the environment, and also the games. It was so amazing, interesting. It was really fun.
So I like how they use their materials, limited as it was, to create something very beautiful and artistic. So
is this something you will try at home or with your friends?
Well, I would love to if I have the materials.
I really enjoyed the game. I played the game. The name of the game is called Match. So there's for my as in, I don't know how to say it too, but I don't know how to play the game before. But one I just asked, they told me how the game looked like, so I participated and I won. I was like, I've not been to somewhere like this that in a mass. I just came out, participated in a game, and actually I was given a gift and a prize. So it was really a nice day. I enjoyed it.
Environmental waste, thank you, my brother, sister. Keep our country safe, let's save our mother nature. I cannot wait to see a better future. So me, I pray for my God.
Esele Ojianelo, HOMEF TV.
Members of Oil Watch International and Oil Watch Africa held their annual retreat with the theme Beyond Colonialism and Extractivism, Energy, Democracy, and the Imperatives of a Just Transition. The retreat x-rayed current trends in extractivism and systemic push for hydrogen amidst the energy transition discourse. This was an opportunity to learn from the struggles and enhance synergies to co-create the pathways to a future that promotes lives and urgently halts fossil-driven dispositions. The report. The retreat underscored the historical context of colonialism and extractivism, which has profoundly shaped local and global energy system. These practices have led to the widespread environmental degradation, social inequalities, and economic dependencies affecting us globally. The need to protect Africa and other countries in the global south from being used as testing ground, and the fight for the protection of Yasuni National Park, a campaign pushed by Action Ecological and Oil Watch members, is a testament to the power of collective effort in protecting the environment and livelihoods. Members of Oil Watch view democratizing and decolonizing energy framework as key to achieving equitable and socialized access to energy, prioritizing the people's need and the planet's integrity, and moving beyond the paradigm of corporate capture towards more equitable and just framework.
The transition for us in Africa should first and foremost be about connecting, all the 1 billion people who do not have access to basic energy system, either for household use or even for local economic activities, because we must not allow this narrative that local economic activities are insignificant.
We need a change of our entire system. We need ourselves to define our system, and not for some ism, or not for some World Bank, or not for some external force to define our system. Energy for who is the big question we have to ask ourselves for in Africa.
Everybody is saying that we have to keep fossil fuels on the ground to fight the local problems and to fight climate change. On that time, 30 years ago, we already were asking that the only way to fight climate change is start to leave fossil fuels on the ground.
Community members call for an immediate halt to the pattern of commodification and extraction of natural resources with minimal regard for local ecosystem.
They have already destroyed the environment, and we also at the same time we are suffering, the global south is suffering from the impacts of climate change, the climate chaos. So what I'd like to say is that we can talk about the investment, just the investment, but it's important to see that the investment should come along with reparation and compensation.
Namibia has become the land of milk and honey, and the governments are very pro-oil and gas there, but the communities do not want oil and gas there. So we are going to work with the communities to not allow recon to drill in the Okavango, a very protected area, a very important site for the communities of Namibia and Botswana. So we're going to stand in solidarity with them. And we're also closely monitoring Total, who wants to exit South Africa, but they are really going deep into Namibia and to drill for oil and gas.
With testimonies from comrades across Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and other parts of the world, it is pertinent to note that the issue of oil extraction and its effects is a global issue that has rendered many homeless and livelihoods impacted. Members of Oil Watch International come together to say that it is time to put a stop to the issue of fossil fuels around the world. I am Kome Odomo, HOMEF TV. You've been watching the recap of some of our activities from 2024. But before we go, we want to send our solidarity and love to our comrades in Southern California who have been experiencing wildfire. With at least 24 persons dead and more than a dozen remains unaccounted for the multiple fires fueled by several drought conditions and a strong Santa Ana wind, which continues to rage across Southern California, leaving the fire crew scrambling to contain historical destruction. Thousands of firefighters are battling at least five spreading wildfire in Los Angeles area. The high cost of the fire reminds us that trillions are wasted subsidizing fossil energy, which wrecks the climate. Renewables are cheaper than fossil fuels and provide more energy. All of this proves that fixing climate crisis by switching to renewables is more affordable and a win-win for all. You've been watching the news on HOMEF TV, but please remember to follow all our social media platforms at Echo HOMEF. Thank you for staying with us. I am Kome Odomo. Thank you.